There's nothing more despised on Gateway than a stegosaurus herd. These massive animals roam the island with hardly a care in the world, mowing down plant life and protecting their own kind aggressively. With very few predators that can effectively challenge them, stegosaurus live generally peaceful existences. Before they reach walking tank status, however, all begin life in a state of vulnerability. Born deep within the swamps, one such stegosaurus calf has awoken to discover that her herd has left her behind. The direction they've gone is clear, and Olga, for that is now her name, begins the journey to find her herd. As stegosaurs are known to have very small brains relative to their bulk, it is unsurprising that Olga soon crosses paths with another juvenile left behind as the herd traveled to the nearby delta. Together they are slightly less vulnerable to small predators, and as herd animals, both immediately feel much more comfortable with a traveling companion. Although she is certainly not fast by any stretch of the imagination, Olga and her companion soon hear the low rumbles of adults in the distance. They call out to the herd as they swim, hoping at least one of the adults will hear them and turn back for them. It is her mother who returns to collect her. The juveniles are safe to drink and rest before they return to the swamp they call home. Here in swamp, life is often peaceful. Smaller herbivores seek protection within the herd and generally act as sentries when danger approaches. Olga simply finds the hipsy funny. All seems well for the small herd as they graze and play, but there will always be predators, hoping for a meal. A lone Dilophosaurus lays an ambush, targeting Olga's companion. The young steglings cry out in panic and flee to the side of their adult protector. While this might feel like the safest place to be, Olga quickly decides to move away in favor of defending herself against the lone threat. And not a moment too soon. Her mother takes aim at the dilo, but impales the other young stegling instead. With the dilo still a very real threat to her safety, Olga charges toward it. Their hipsy has blinded the predator, and the young stegling is able to catch up to the much faster animal, while it attempts to clear its vision. The dilo will think twice before trying to mess with her again. She's sure of it. Energized by her sense of victory over the dilo, but having been sent to a safer place by the older herd members, Olga pouts her way into the swamp columns. As she goes, however, she spots a Deinosuchus creeping around on the land. A decision is made, and the mischievous stegling ignores her mother's command to go to the safety of the mud pit. She playfully teases the dino, staying outside of its reach, but mock-threatening it. Until she is sternly told to get her butt back to the safety of the herd. As night approaches, the herd begins to make their way toward the center of the swamp. There they hope to find horned melons and wait out the darkness in a sheltered place. They haven't gone far, however, before a Cerrado attempts to attack. Olga flees back toward her mother, letting out a warning whoop. The herd decides to turn back. Night is fast approaching, and with the Cerrado stalking the path they must take, Olga's mother is unwilling to continue until morning. Olga, however, desperately wants the melons she was promised. She hangs back, dragging her feet, hopeful that the herd will change their minds again. This hesitation leaves her to become the Cerrado's next target. She only hits it once before the rest of the herd comes to her rescue. Morning light brings a lone raptor. Olga's curiosity is piqued. The small predator doesn't look like much of a threat, and this time, instead of moving closer to her mother, she moves further away from the herd. She still remembers how dangerous it can be to be too close to her mother in a fight, and against something so small, she'd much rather fend for herself. When the raptor shows interest only in the smallest member of the herd, Olga grows bored and lays down to watch. She's aware that she will not be of much help. She's too slow, and being one more body in the way will likely only result in friendly fire. Spotting her on the ground and apart from the herd, though, has the raptor changing targets. He is quicker than she anticipates, but his bites barely sting. She stands her ground, unafraid. It doesn't take long for the rest of the herd to come barreling in to protect her. The raptor flees. This hunt is simply too dangerous to continue. Months pass and Olga has grown into a fine subadult. Having ultimately moved on from her mother's herd, she's found herself in a similar position as a guardian over a juvenile. There is a sense of déjà vu as a lone Cerrado targets the juvie. This time, though, Olga is much larger and more deadly. Although she is slow, she does her best to keep herself between the Cerrado and his intended target, while the other two guardian stegos push the juvenile towards safety. Olga gives him a final nibble to send him on his way. Leaving home is never easy. It is all too easy to slip into a sense of routine when you've lived your entire life in one place. However, the food is growing more scarce by the day, and Olga feels the pull as all of her kind does. It is time to migrate. They will make for the highlands, a much drier, mountainous region where they will wait out the winter months until the spring. The young juvenile has begun to grow under the care of his guardians. Although not always the most attentive, Olga does her part to ensure the safety of the stegling as best she can. Therefore, when a Carnotaurus pack approaches with hostile intent, she takes a defensive stance against the threat. She must be incredibly careful. One wrong swing, and she may kill her ward instead of the predator hunting him. He himself is large enough to do plenty of damage, and it is simply safer to provide him with backup. Ultimately, though, it is not the herd that saves him. A pair of Ceratos come racing in, targeting the Carnos, scattering the trio and leaving Olga's herd to their peace. Injured, bleeding, and dehydrated, the young stegling makes a desperate dash for water. Olga does her best to keep up, but he is quick and his smaller bulk allows him to run much longer. He vanishes around the corner and out of sight. By the time Olga catches up, she's too late. Multiple predators lurk in the dusky light, and the young male stegling lies disemboweled beside the water. She returns to the highlands as the day dawns, now completely alone. She rests beside the lake, kept company by a tiny bepi. Her peace does not last long. Caught unaware, she is attacked by a Cerato. Much too hungry to deal with the vomit-inducing bite of the Cerato, she is unwilling to show fear in the face of such an adversary. She squares up, protecting her head by keeping her side and widest Thagomizer swing range open to him. With the lake at her back and her calm exterior despite having been bitten, the Ceratos decide that she is not worth the trouble, and race off to attack a more skittish target instead. Weeks pass in lonely reverie. Herd animals are not meant to be alone, and the lack of companionship leaves Olga listless and depressed. She's not been eating, and has remained beside the lake, even after many of the herds have already moved on. As she goes to drink, an incredibly bold solo raptor issues a challenge. She watches him circling, waiting for her to accept. She hesitates momentarily before an old spark of the curiosity from her youth pushes her forward. Who is this raptor that dares travel alone? Before long, Olga is locked in an almost hypnotized dance, forgetting her greatest weapon and instead attempting to match him bite for bite. He is quick, darting around her bulk with a confidence that only a practiced warrior understands. When a second raptor appears and attempts to interfere, Olga is surprised to see him attack it and send it scurrying away. The dance continues even as the sun begins to set. His bites sting, but Olga remains strong. She knows the raptor is much more heavily injured than she, but he has fought well. They face each other for a long moment, before the raptor forfeits, leaving Olga to her thoughts. Almost. A hungry Deinosuchus has been watching the hunt from within the lake, and attempts an attack when Olga enters the water to cool the stinging pain of her wounds. Annoying. She pauses to graze and then goes to rest. It is in this moment of rest and recovery that the second raptor returns. She gives it a warning bite, obnoxious little rat. But it is undeterred, assuming her injuries are far greater than they are, and that she is more exhausted than she actually is. Impaling the annoying gnat easily as he dismounts from a pounce. Now, Olga returns to her thoughts. The crimson-backed raptor's determination has invigorated her. Tomorrow she will begin the search for a new herd. Finding a new family is easier said than done. Olga's weakened state cannot be remedied overnight, and she spends several weeks healing and eating to regain her strength. It is in the earliest hours of the morning that she notices a small pack of raptors are stalking her through the plains. She's not afraid, but is aware of how dangerous a well-coordinated pack can be. They attempt to bait her to wear her out, but she is careful with her swings. Too many in succession can quickly lead to exhaustion. Regardless, she is thirsty, and the slippery little raptors are careful to remain out of reach. Ever patient, Olga keeps a cool head. Too much movement will make her wounds bleed more heavily. She can risk walking toward the nearest water source, but the pack will take advantage of her movement. killing one of the raptors. She simply waits, biding her time. She can hear more stegos in the area. However, she does not call to them. If they come to her aid, they come. If not, she will fight until she can fight no more. They approach, calling out to her. She hesitates momentarily, but the opportunity for both life and family wins out. She turns away from the raptor pack and toward the friendly stegos waiting to embrace her. With one on either side, she revels in the immediate feeling of home. Love them or hate them, respect them or revile them, stegosaurus herds stand strong as they travel the island. Olga will soon migrate with her new family back to the swamp where she was born, reveling in the return to community. This is where she belongs. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and comment your thoughts below. If you're new around here, please consider subscribing for more content like this. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.